Rand Paul walked into a political firestorm, fully prepared to dismantle every weak argument and misleading claim that came his way. Whoopi Goldberg, caught off guard, found herself on the defensive as Paul methodically countered each interruption and accusation. The tension in the room escalated quickly as Rand Paul's arguments grew stronger, leaving Whoopi struggling to keep up. Eventually, the heated exchange reached a breaking point, with Whoopi visibly flustered and screaming in frustration. In an unexpected turn, the show cut to a sudden commercial break, leaving the audience in stunned silence. The confrontation left everyone wondering what exactly Rand Paul said to send Whoopi spiraling into such a state of panic and disarray.
Actually, Turkey doesn't want Iran to take over everything. Israel doesn't want Iran to take over everything. And in fact, Israel actually stands up for themselves all the time.
They end up being in a bigger war.
Let me finish. Don't interrupt.
Sonny Hostin, grasping for words, desperately tried to pivot the conversation as Rand Paul sat there, locked and loaded. Trust me, you two not want to miss a single second of this, but first, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Did you do it? Awesome, let's dive in. Rand Paul was invited on The View to discuss his book, The Case Against Socialism Big mistake. The hosts weren't interested in a calm discussion. They were looking for a fight. And Rand? Oh, he was more than ready to take them down. The moment Sonny opened her mouth, you could sense she was setting a trap. She claimed Venezuela's collapse wasn't a result of socialism but rather corruption, completely ignoring the role of economic policies. Rand Paul, without missing a beat, tore into her argument, pointing out that the socialist policies in Venezuela were the very reason for its downfall. It didn't take long before the heated debate escalated, with the hosts scrambling to regain control. By the end, the room was in chaos, and Rand had made his point loud and clear.
This is here, but we don't get any free stuff. We don't have free health care. Our public education system is a...
Rand Paul immediately shut down Sonny's argument, firing back. If you vote for socialism, you get socialism. His words hit hard, and the crowd erupted in applause. The tension in the room was palpable as he made it clear that the collapse in Venezuela was a direct result of socialist policies. The hosts were left scrambling, unable to refute his points. It was a moment of undeniable clarity, and Rand Paul had the audience fully on his side, proving his argument with unwavering confidence.
Yeah, the case against socialism. Bernie Sanders is no longer alone on the debate stage. It seems like we're hearing more and more about socialism. In fact, 43% of Americans think it's a good thing. You are on the complete other end of that. Tell us about this book.
Well, one of the things we learned in writing the book is a lot of people say, well, we're not for Stalin, we're not for Hitler, we're for Scandinavia. So as we were researching the book, we actually found that Bernie Sanders' form of socialism actually is unpopular, and he would never get elected to anything in Denmark. In fact, the Prime Minister of Denmark, when he heard Bernie was going around saying they were socialists, says, no, we're not socialists. We have private property, a stock exchange, we have low corporate income taxes, we don't have a minimum wage. And the big difference, and this is where the big lie comes from, Bernie says we're going to give you all this free stuff, but we're only going to tax the rich people. In Scandinavia, they tax the working class, 25% sales tax, and an income tax starting at $60,000 is 60%. So really the difference between their country and our country is they do have more free stuff in Scandinavia, but they pay for it with massive taxes on the working class and the middle.
In his book The Case Against Socialism Rand Paul delves into the rising popularity of socialist ideas, particularly among Americans, with 43% believing socialism could be a good thing. While figures like Bernie Sanders advocate for it, Paul makes it clear that he's on the opposite side of the debate. He discusses how many people who claim to support socialism don't actually back the extreme forms like Stalin or Hitler. Instead, they point to Scandinavian countries, thinking those examples reflect the kind of socialism they're endorsing. As Paul and his team researched the book, they found that Bernie Sanders' brand of socialism is, in fact, unpopular in those very countries he admires. In Denmark, for instance, the Prime Minister outright rejected Sanders' claim that Denmark is socialist. He emphasized that Denmark has private property, a stock exchange, low corporate taxes, and no minimum wage, features that distinguish their system from what Sanders advocates. Paul highlights a major misconception. Bernie claims that socialism can be funded by taxing the rich, but in Scandinavian countries, The reality is that the working class and middle class are heavily taxed. They face a 25% sales tax and an income tax that starts at 60% once you get a $60,000 income. So while Scandinavia offers more free stuff, it comes with steep taxes on the middle class and working class. The fundamental difference is that the Scandinavian model isn't free. It's funded by heavy taxation on everyone, not just the wealthy.
You know, I live in Miami. There's tens of thousands of Venezuelan exiles living there. You talk a lot about Venezuela in your new book. I get a lot of political ads from the Republican Party. Donald Trump has tweeted this. Many have tweeted this. If you vote for Democrats, they will turn the United States into Venezuela. Do you think that's a fair statement to make?
Well, if you vote for a socialist, you might get socialism.
Come on, don't do that. Maduro is not a socialist. He's a corrupt, murderous thug who is starving his people.
That's not true.
That's not true? Maduro's not a thug and a murderer
it's not
who's
true.
starving his people.
Let's have a conversation here. Chavez was a socialist, and socialism was the economic system
And
of
they
Venezuela.
stole. It's a
And so-
kleptocracy. It's not
but,
socialism.
But here's the question is, they voted for socialism. They voted for, let me finish.
No, I can't let you finish. If you're going to say Maduro's not a murderous thug, I'm not going to let you finish. Damn right. And I've got a bunch of neighbors and friends who know this. Don't do this to me. Don't mansplain. I'm a 47-year-old.
Thanks to Senator Rand Paul. His new book is called The Case Against Socialism, and we'll be right back.
That was just the beginning. Whoopi tried to cut off Rand Paul every time he spoke, but he remained composed. When the topic shifted to U.S. foreign policy, Rand calmly explained why endless wars were reckless and unnecessary. That's when Whoopi snapped, accusing him of running away and asking, "What about our allies? What about the troops?" Rand stayed cool under pressure, delivering a brutal response. Should we stay in wars forever? Should we keep sending American kids into harm's way with no clear mission? No, Whoopi, that's not leadership. That's recklessness. His words struck a chord and the tension in the room intensified. Rand's argument was simple yet powerful. He wasn't advocating for abandoning allies, but for ending pointless, unending conflicts that cost lives without achieving anything substantial. His response left Whoopi and the other hosts scrambling, unable to counter his point effectively.
One of the things I've always supported about President Trump is actually one of the things I liked about President Obama, that we said we were overextended, that the Iraq War was a mistake. I think it's one of the reasons President Obama beat Hillary Clinton, because Hillary Clinton had supported the Iraq War. I still think the Iraq War, regime change in the Middle East, and these wars are senseless. So does President Trump. He doesn't want to get us involved in another Iraq War in Syria. If anything, Syria is more complicated. The other is a practical concern. You have 50 soldiers. They're talking about moving 50 soldiers. Who goes to war with 50 soldiers? You have 50 soldiers and tens of thousands of Turkish troops amassing. The Turks are also allies. The Free Syrian Army were our allies for 7 years. They're allied with the Turks. The Kurds have been our allies. The Kurds, in all likelihood, are now going to be allies of Assad to try to carve out a place in Syria for themselves. It's a really complicated question. I guess from my perspective, I say, any of these people out here, their kids have to go to war. War's not a chess game. People lose their limbs and people die, and I think it's the least we owe to the kids that we're going to send into this war. Why are we going to war and who are we fighting?
Ouch! Whoopi tried to push back, but Rand wasn't finished. Turkey is causing chaos in the region, but you want to pretend this is simple. It's not, he fired back. And maybe if you actually listened instead of shouting, you'd know that. Boom. The audience went dead silent. Whoopi's face turned bright red, realizing she was out of her depth. In a desperate attempt to regain control, she did the only thing she could think of. She cut to a commercial break. The segment abruptly ended, leaving the audience in stunned silence. Rand had delivered a powerful, well-reasoned response, while Whoopi could only retreat. Next up, the show moved on, but the tension lingered.
But isn't there...
So,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. So, if you have allies and they are working with you and fighting with you, and 24 hours somebody wakes up and says, "Oh, we're out."
Right.
Is that the right way to do this?
I think the way we look at war is we don't look at
No. Is that the right way to do
the
it?
question.
Okay.
When we decide whether or not we're sending our young people into harm's way, we should obey the Constitution, which says we should declare war and put them in a war theater. But let me finish.
Okay.
And here's the thing about it, is if you ask these people, Lindsey Graham and the Cheney war and all these warmongers that want to stay at war forever, who are we going to declare war on? They don't know who. We're going to declare war on Turkey, our ally.
Should we
the Free
ever
Syrian
walk
Army, our
out
ally.
in the middle? It's like walking
We
out.
should never be there in the first place.
That's not the question. That's all good.
Sunny Hostin thought she had a gotcha moment when she attacked Rand Paul's tax policies, claiming he only wanted tax cuts for the rich. Rand's response was brutal. Sunny, the top 1% already pay 40% of the income taxes in this country, while the bottom 50% pay nothing. Sunny panicked, scrambling to change the subject, but Rand wasn't done. He kept going. If you think taxes should be fair, why do you ignore the fact that people who make under $50,000 don't pay a dime? You want to call that oppression? The audience was left in stunned silence as Rand expertly turned her own argument against her. Sunny had no response, and the tension in the room was palpable.
Massive taxes here, but we don't get any free stuff. We don't have free health care. Well, our public education system is a problem. Seems like the only people that get free stuff are the very, very wealthy.
We have a different form of taxation in our country. Ours is much more progressive. So we've taken the poor off of the rolls. They don't pay income tax anymore. Most people below $50,000 don't pay any income tax. The top 1% in our country pay 40%.
Our audience says that's not true.
Well, the IRS statistics say that the top 1% in our country pay 40% of the income tax, and that those making less than $50,000.
Donald Trump doesn't pay any income tax.
Sunny Hostin had nothing left. She just sat there blinking, and then came the moment that went viral. Desperate to recover, Whoopi tried to play the neutral card, saying, "I'm not left, I'm not right, I'm just American." But Rand Paul's response obliterated her. Well, Whoopi, if you're just American, maybe you should listen to ideas that don't fit your narrative. That's what true Americans do. Bam! The crowd exploded. Whoopi, stunned, just sat there, frozen. The producers rushed to cut the segment, and just like that, it was over. Rand Paul walked off that stage unshaken, while The View's host sat there, completely humiliated. Social media went into a frenzy, with the hashtag Whoopi Meltdown and hashtag Rand Paul destroyed The View trending instantly. Even viewers who usually supported the show were calling them out. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. The View says they empower women, then spend an hour talking over a man who calmly lays out facts. The hypocrisy is unreal. Rumors quickly spread that ABC executives were in panic mode, with reports of advertisers pulling out due to the backlash. Some insiders even suggested that The View might be on the chopping block. Could this be the beginning of the end for the show? One thing is certain, Rand Paul came prepared. He exposed The View's hypocrisy, handled their nonsense like a pro, and walked away victorious. But now I want to hear from you. Did Rand Paul just end The View for good? Do you think Whoopi's meltdown was the final straw, or will the show survive this? Drop a comment below, and let's discuss. And before you go, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This story isn't over yet.